Newport Beach is an affluent coastal city in Orange County, California, that you may know for its good surfing and sandy beaches. And yes, I did pull that from Wikipedia. But what you might not know is that in 1947, the city found itself at the center of one of the longest criminal trials in Orange County history. I can't wait to tell you all about it, so make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all the latest videos. So, sometime after 11 p.m. on the night of March 15th, 1947, a huge explosion on Newport Bay rocked the peaceful beach town. And the source was a brand new 47-foot Chris Craft yacht named the Mary E., belonging to 62-year-old Walter Overell and his 57-year-old wife, Beulah. Together, the Overells lived in the unincorporated town of Flint Ridge, California, and owned a successful furniture business in the city of Los Angeles. It wasn't until the Coast Guard towed the remains of the Mary E. to shallow water that the bodies of Walter and Beulah were discovered on board. The Overells only had one child, a 17-year-old daughter named Beulah Louise, who, by all accounts, appeared to have narrowly escaped death that night herself. You see, she was on board the yacht with her parents, but shortly before the explosion, she left to go get hamburgers with her 21-year-old fiancé named George Gollum. The Orange County Sheriff's Department initially suspected the explosion to be accidental, possibly linked to a faulty gas line. However, when sheriff's investigators found several dozen sticks of unexploded TNT linked to a clock on the boat's battery, coupled with the fact that the Overells appeared to have been beaten to death before the explosion, it quickly turned into a homicide investigation. Now, first off, I do not think it's funny that two people died in such a horrific manner, but you have to check out this old news photograph of Sheriff Music examining the undetonated TNT on his desk. First off, it looks like something right out of a Wile E. Coyote cartoon. I mean, you can see the clock with wires attached to the dynamite. Secondly, I'm not an ordnance expert, but I probably wouldn't be touching that stuff with even a 5,000-foot pole. Nowadays, you would have bomb squad come in and take that stuff over, and you wouldn't be plopping unexploded ordnance on the sheriff's desk. Beulah Louise and her fiancé George Gollum were arrested and charged with the murder of Beulah's parents, and it all went downhill from there. The trial attracted worldwide attention and was front-page news on almost every major newspaper in 1947. While in jail between court dates, Beulah and George exchanged salacious love notes that were leaked to the press, and the public ate it up. The tiny Santa Ana courthouse was packed to the brim with journalists and spectators enamored by the Romeo and Juliet duo. The leaked love notes fueled the fire, and the two were deemed pretty much innocent by the court of public opinion. Now, I want to read you some of the couple's love notes that were leaked to the press, and let's see what you think.
There now, I hope you'll always love me. Oh my darling, oh my pops. Popsy darling, my beautiful, handsome, intelligent Pops. I adore you, always eternally. I never want anything else but to be alone with you, working for you. Your slave, Louise.
All right, nothing too crazy. What did George have to say back?
You said that if I was unfaithful to you, you would take an overdose of sleeping pills. You need never worry about having to do that. I will never be unfaithful to you. But just you step out of line once, you will get beaten and bruised and perhaps even worse, and then I'll lock you up in the house, and you will never go anywhere or see anyone unless you are attached to me. So be careful. Be mighty careful.
You see, nowadays we would call that a threat of domestic violence. Back then, it was love. So what happened next? The trial stretched on for 19 weeks, which at the time was the longest criminal trial in United States history, let alone Orange County history. The prosecution tried to prove that Beulah and George conspired to murder Beulah's parents after the Overells expressed resentment toward their daughter's engagement. Enraged by her parents' disapproval and standing to inherit their amassed fortune, Beulah, along with her fiancé, allegedly bludgeoned the Overells to death on their yacht and then rigged it with dynamite to make it appear like an accident. Had some of the dynamite not exploded, there probably would not have even been a criminal investigation. Despite the prosecution presenting pretty compelling evidence against Beulah Louise and George Gollum, which included a receipt for the sale of dynamite found in George's possession, the jury found the two not guilty in the murders of Walter and Beulah Overell. The two separated after the trial but continued to maintain their innocence, admitting that although they did purchase the dynamite used in the explosion, it was at the request of Beulah Louise's father and they didn't know what he needed it for. I was really curious to find out what happened to these two in the years following the trial, and it really didn't go so well for either of them, Beulah Louise in particular. First of all, Beulah Louise didn't instantly get access to her parents' estate. It would get caught up in the court system and be a few years before she saw a single penny. But just 1 year after the murder trial in 1948, she gets in trouble with the law again when she pleads guilty to a hit-and-run traffic accident. She marries a 28-year-old LA policeman in 1949, but just a year later, things are starting to go south with her marriage. In October of 1950, there is a final disposition of her parents' assets, but she only ends up with $70,000 of the originally estimated $600,000 estate. In 1952, she divorces Robert Cannon, and 1 year later, she marries for a second time and moves to Las Vegas. And in 1955, she gets in trouble with the law again, this time on a drunk driving charge. She falls out of the news after that for 10 years, and in 1965, at the age of 36, she's found dead in her Las Vegas home, the cause of death being acute alcoholism. As for George Gollum, he gives up on his medical school ambitions after the murder trial and literally goes off and joins the circus, and he marries a motorcycle showgirl at the age of 23. But in December of 1949, he's arrested by the FBI and accused of stealing a new car from a dealership in Savannah, Georgia. He's sentenced to 1 year in federal prison, and in February of 1950, his wife wins an annulment stating that she was reluctant to marry him in the first place and that the marriage was never consummated. After getting out of prison, Gollum goes on to earn his PhD degree in biophysics, and he works for a defense contractor until the 1970s. In the 1980s, he ends up in the Lake Tahoe area selling real estate. He was remarried and divorced one more time in his life and had a daughter and son. And in 2009, he dies in Alaska at the age of 83. So I tried to find some positive outcomes that came as a result of this trial, and what I found is it actually exposed two very big problems. The first being that at the time, local law enforcement agencies didn't have access to their own crime labs. So this meant evidence either went untested or it had to be sent out, resulting in errors or severe delays. Secondly, there were no restrictions at the time on the sale or purchase of dynamite. It was pretty much a free-for-all. So new legislation passed as a direct result of this trial, restricting the sale and purchase of dynamite to certain individuals. Anyway, that is the story of the Newport Beach yacht murders. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments down below if I left anything out or if there's anything you want to add. Thanks for watching, and remember to hit that subscribe button. And as always, remember to never stop exploring.